It is Wednesday evening. You know what that means. It's time for another Auburn family night. We are here to talk about anything and everything Auburn, centralized around your comments, your questions, and your calls. Let's get into it right now. War Eagle Auburn family, War Eagle E2C Network family, thank you so much for being here, for watching on the replay, live, however you got here, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, other places out there, however you got here. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time being part of our little family within the Auburn family. And we're going to get into a lot of different things tonight. As I addressed at the start of the show, it is our Auburn family night. It is all about what you want to talk about. No agenda. We will literally bounce around to anything. So if you're coming here for one thing, one specific thing, can't promise that we'll stay on that the entire time. But chances are there's a topic that you're interested in that we'll discuss here. Some of those might be related to sports, Auburn food, Auburn weird things, Buc-ee's. I don't have that jar ready yet, but we can make it at some point in the future. Anyway, anything Auburn, it is on the table tonight. Couple things that I'd like for you to do for me as we start the show. Use this as your check-in period. I know it seems like a silly ritual, but it does help get the stream going out on a good note. Post right now. Go ahead and make an initial post checking in where you're watching from, your city, your state, and if you're international with a War Eagle, let us know who is hanging out with us tonight. And don't be shy. You can comment along throughout the show too. And of course, if you can, here on YouTube especially, smash the like button. If you'd like to call in tonight, we will now open up the phone lines presented by our friends at All Things Auburn. You'll see their logo coming up here in just a second. Check them out at allthingsauburn.net. We'll mention them again in the show as we go throughout. If you call in tonight, you can be on camera, off camera. It doesn't matter. However you choose to take advantage of that tonight, that is your choice. Or you can just hang out in the chat room and participate in that way. But it is open now for anybody who wants to take advantage of that. I'll set the table for us while we wait for people to get geared up and arrived here. We are starting a few minutes early just because I felt like it tonight. I'm wearing a softball shirt tonight. Well, you can't tell in the camera now that I'm looking at it, but it is a softball shirt in solidarity with the team who I believe is playing Jacksonville State right now. I think that's what's going on. Men's tennis is hosting the SEC tournament. Their first match starts tomorrow. We have got the end of spring football, the transfer portal wreaking havoc everywhere, especially for Auburn. I shouldn't say wreaking havoc for Auburn, but causing a lot of interest and sometimes a little bit of maybe dismay is the right thing. That is obviously on the table what we can talk about, and that's both football and basketball related in terms of the interest around the transfer portal. And obviously the B word is still out there. I need to try to not mention it as much as I can. Dusty's here. Good to see you. Thanks for checking in from Picola. We got Florida, the state of Florida, checking in tonight. I know we're going to hear from Alabama and Georgia too. But I miss hearing from our Iowa folks. Like we had Spooky Buffalo. It's his name on here. It was his name at one point. Checking in from time to time. We've had people check in from the Midwest, the West Coast, international. I think internationally we've had people check in from England, from Germany, from Poland, from South Africa, from Panama, Australia, I think is one we had, or New Zealand, one of the two. So please don't be shy. Your little part of the world is just as important, even of those far-reaching parts of the world. So good to hear from Dusty, already here on the show tonight. So what's the current mood everybody has with the transfer portal? How are we feeling about it? Because I'm trying to get a gauge on how the Auburn family feels about it right now. I actually made a video that I had hoped to release today. It's probably going to come out tomorrow. Well, at this point, it'll come out tomorrow now, barring any changes in the transfer portal. But obviously, 2 new additions to that in the last week for Auburn football. And there's been exits, but not a lot of additions. Same could be said for men's basketball. There's been a lot of, well, not a lot, some exits, 1 entrance, and a lot of the people that Auburn fans wanted to see to come to Auburn deciding to go other places. I think the Ben Middlebrooks kid from Clemson was one that we were really hoping that would come here. The only problem I had with that one, that's a true center. It's a very Walker Kessler type of feel. What are you going to do with Janai in that point? And I know he's going to the draft, but the understanding is that just like several others have done in the past, that he will come back once he gets his evaluation. Now, it could be a JT Thor situation, right? Where JT Thor went in open-minded, got some really good evaluations, and as it became more and more apparent, he stayed in the draft. I hope, selfishly, I hope that doesn't happen for Auburn. Selfishly, I want him back. Selfishly, I want him to be a part of this team next year. I think we need him. I think if we lose Janai, things get a little bit more challenging next year. But I want him also to do what's best for him. And I know that Bruce Pearl has his guys' best interest in mind. Their what's best for their futures, what's best for their careers. And obviously, he's going to say the same thing as he's done to Janai, as he's done to Sharif, to Chuma, to Walker, to Jabari. It's funny thinking about this time last year when Walker and Jabari were leaving. And, there was this kind of fervor that picked up for maybe Jabari is going to stay. And I was like, who in their right mind is entertaining that? Like, there was a point even where I saw so much discussion about it. I was like, am I missing something? Why would he come back? Why? Walker Kessler, I think, was even in Auburn today. He's actually been the most, I think, not that Jabari has been distant from Auburn and not necessarily in the distance category, but the just interactive. But I think Walker has been the most interactive with Auburn fans and coming back. I think he was on campus or has been on campus training since the season ended for him. I think it's only, who is it? Isaac? Is Isaac the only one that's in the playoffs right now? Because I don't think Jabari and Walker made it. I don't follow the NBA, so I don't keep track of that. Dusty says that's why we didn't get Middlebrook. Didn't have a big role to offer him, but if we add another true 5, I think Janai can play the 4 sometimes. Yeah, Janai's got a lot of versatility, which I think makes him such a great asset to this team. He can do the true 5, but you often wonder, is he best suited maybe in a bigger 4, power forward situation? It would be interesting to see that dynamic at play. The other issue is that you've got, Dylan Cardwell, who in my mind has earned a lot of, deservedly so, playing time, and he got that this year. So he's in the mix too. So I don't, obviously with Babatunde leaving Auburn, there's a spot open, but it's going to be one of those people that you come as a depth piece. And if they earn playing time, they earn playing time, right? But yeah, so far as it stands with the basketball team, we have just got Denver Jones and waiting for a couple other spots to be filled there for right now. But I know that made a lot of people disappointed that Middlebrooks decided to go to NC State, I think is what it was. Clemson to NC State, which really isn't a big jump. Other news related to the transfer, Chance Westry moved into the transfer portal, has now found, former Auburn Tiger has found his home at Syracuse. That was an intriguing one for me. Now, if you know where he comes from, which I believe is it the DC area? Anyway, I know he's from up that way or has some ties up that way. He definitely, I think, is going to benefit up there, being closer to where he's from. And I like it. I don't know enough about Syracuse right now. I know that I think Jim Boeheim is done now at Syracuse, but it's a very storied program, obviously with Carmelo Anthony tied to that, and Jimmy Boeheim, his son. So it'll be interesting to watch. I always root for these guys when they leave. I rooted for Devin Cambridge when he went away. I rooted for Davion Mitchell when he went to Baylor. And there are certain ones that when they leave, I don't necessarily root for them or actively root for them. But several of these guys I definitely pull for and wish the best for throughout their journey into the NBA and beyond. Well, into other teams and beyond right now. It'll be interesting to see if Devin Cambridge comes back. Anybody still feel good about that one? I think the longer it goes, maybe that makes it more likely. Because if Devin's not finding a place he wants to be other than Arizona State as quickly as possible, I wonder if that's going to increasingly make his mind come back to something that he's familiar with. It'll be interesting to watch how that all plays out. Gracie Schuyler is here. Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out with us, Gracie. War Eagle to you. Good to hear from you. But yeah, so that's kind of the big things for basketball. I don't know why or how we started on basketball when we were talking about the transfer portal, but I guess that's where we ended up. Chance Westry finding his home. The Ben Middlebrooks was a bit of a miss. The kid from UAH, Chauncey, I think his name is somebody that's on the table. Devin Cambridge is on the table. There are a few others out there as well. I would really like us quickly as possible to start getting the pieces together, because I want to start like thinking about this team, thinking how it's going to be different. So we'll see. Gracie says it's been a year since I've been here. Well, welcome back. Glad to see you back in the fold here and hanging out with us tonight. So yeah, I haven't heard where Traore. So Chance Westry has found his location. Traore, I don't know if he's found his location yet. Babatunde, same. Chandler Leopard, I don't know. And looks like for now, at least Alan Flanagan, his dad is gone, but he is going to stick around. You thought Chance and Yohan would come back. Yeah, I that did not strike me as ones that were going to test the waters. Usually they're very clear with their intentions. Look at the way Janai announced on social media with his post. Very clear that he wants to take this serious, the opportunity to get evaluated, see what they say. But there was some very clear language there from what I remember reading that he was going to seriously consider coming back if it didn't fall the way that he would want it for. This is not a knock on Janai, because I think Janai can find his way into the league from this point. But I really do think and believe that as good as he was this year, what can one more year do for him? So it's not so much I don't think that he's ready. It's more that I think he could. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's going to have a Walker Kessler Defensive Player of the Year award, but I think that he can have a year which would just be outstanding. I really hope that he'll consider that. Well, Gracie, I don't know if you heard this part, but Middlebrooks has already gone somewhere else, so he is no longer an option. So we've hit the Devin piece, Alan Flanagan staying. I don't know that we've kind of reached the point where I guess Jalen's going to stay and Alan too, but there's still opportunities in time available. Derek, thanks for checking in from Gunnersville. Good to see you. Thanks for being here and hanging out with us on the stream. We've been talking some basketball, transfer portal stuff. What about football? Can obviously come back to some basketball things if you'd like. But how does everybody feel about the transfer portal and football? 5 departures. Again, if you can, be looking tomorrow, unless we get some news, some more transfers. I might have to readjust that video, but my plan is to release a video tomorrow breaking down the latest 2. But 5 total transfers out. Nobody in thus far. Remains to be seen who will come in and what positions they want to fill, but you've lost 3 linebackers, a defensive lineman, and a wide receiver at this point. 3 different linebackers leaving is pretty interesting to me. It really, really is. We definitely need to get the portal heating up. See, I think, and I'm not saying that you're saying this, but when I usually hear that, just because people aren't signing, committing, whatever, doesn't mean it's not heated up. This is a long process for a lot of these people. And sometimes the people that you see making those decisions have had things in the works for a long time. Sometimes, not all the time. I don't think Janai can do much more. He is like Drew Timmy. Is he done? Is he done now? I think that was the case. Maybe he has one more year of eligibility, but I think he's gone. from Zaga. Good inside, but too slow for the NBA. Is ceiling is the G League. Gracie, I'll be honest with you. I'm thankful that you're not a scout. Because that is probably not going to be accurate. Now, will he find himself in the G League to start with? Sure. It seems to be the route for a lot of people these days. And maybe he wants to go that route. Maybe he's comfortable, even if he doesn't get drafted, going into the G League. But I think Janai is going to come back. I believe Janai is going to come back, and I think this year is going to really show how versatile and valuable player he is. Big Simp checking in. What's going on? Thanks for hanging out with us at work. I hope work is going well. It's not too stressful. Always good to see you in the chat. Big Simp. Derek, football transfer portal. Grayson McCall has done what he's needed to do to be able to become a grad transfer, but I feel like he won't enter unless he absolutely knows where he's going. How do you know he's done what he needs to do to be a grad transfer? Has he done what he needs to do for a grad transfer in general? But are you saying specifically for Auburn? So how do you know that, and where are you getting that information from? Because the thing with the Grayson McCall guy is so out there, and everybody says, no, he needs this. No, he doesn't. I don't really think anybody knows what's going on with that situation, to be honest with you. I also don't feel he'd come to Auburn unless he was the starter. Why come to Auburn as a grad transfer to be a pickup? Well, I think most quarterbacks come and are told that they're come because they're told that they are going to be have a good chance at the starter. TJ Finley didn't come here because he thought he didn't stand a chance against Bo Nix. He thought he did, and in some regards, maybe he did. But yeah, usually when a transfer quarterback like that comes in, they're being told, yeah, you got to compete for it, but it's your job to lose at this point. Big Simp not quoting, but talking about Feinbaum. Paul, hey, good news. Paul Feinbaum says Alabama has a quarterback problem like us. What's the problem? I'm not going to believe that Alabama has a true problem until it actually is clear, evident in front of me. Time and time again, as much as I hate to admit it, they reload at every position, and there's no reason right now to believe that's not going to be the case. Frankly, I do think that you should, I don't want to say this. Maybe that's not the right way to go about that. Anyway, I lost my train of thought on that one, but I think you should prepare yourself for the fact that Alabama is going to just retool and reload. Doesn't matter what position. Here's the thing. It doesn't really matter who their quarterback is right now, because they have such great wide receivers and they have such a great offensive line, and usually a pretty good running back too. You can hide a lot if you're great in all the other positions. And I hate to admit that, but we got to face reality. So the Auburn Undercover podcast, well, those guys are pretty, the beat writers in general are going to always be pretty much in the know, but I've just never seen anybody lay out for me what exactly is missing if we're talking about the context of Grayson McCall coming to Auburn, what he's missing, what he needs, and where's the evidence that he's done it. Because to me, it's very easy to just say that, and it sounds like a good soundbite, but I'm just someone who really values the actual paper trail of all that stuff. And we may not be privy to that or anything like that, but I would trust people on the beat because they're going to be the ones in the know. Jalen is NBA ready. Allen needs a year in the G League. Kind of swishing that around a little bit, thinking about it. Y'all know, well, most of y'all know how big I am on, wow, I have lots of brain farts tonight. How big I am about Jalen Williams. Love that kid. And I think he is just like an untapped ferocity away from being just one of the most outstanding basketball players. He's versatile. I've used that word a lot tonight. He can defend well. He can score well. He just is a smart basketball player. I don't know that he is, and this is just me as an amateur saying this, so I know nothing, but in my amateur opinion, I don't think I wouldn't go with NBA ready. I would go with he is capable, probably he's the most capable out of everybody outside of Janai to be ready for the NBA. Allen, I do think just because of his trajectory needs a little bit more time, but if he thinks he's ready, he's ready. Let's see here. Bama will go 8-4. Ooh, I wish. Probably not going to be the case, though. Mama always said that if you can't say anything nice about Alabama, don't say anything at all. My mama didn't say that because she's an Alabama fan. Well, she probably did say that, actually. I will say I will never mince words about Alabama, but I'm also going to be honest. And I see no reason to believe, even on a Paul Feinbaum show, that they have a problem until I actually see the problem. Because even in their worst years, they're still in the hunt for the national title, right? So yeah, that's just the way I like to look at it. All right, looks like we got our first caller in. We're going to say hello to him, and then we'll get back to your comments and questions. So stick around while we talk to our first caller. He is Mr. Positivity himself. You know him, you love him, Mr. Kevin. What's going on, sir?
I think Robbie Ashford might be the starting quarterback.
Why so? Why do you think he's going to be the starter?
He can run the ball really good.
Well, you got to do more than just run the ball really good to be the starting quarterback, unless there's no one else that can do all the other things better. So, any other reason why you think he's going to be the starter?
He will improve by throwing touchdowns after right.
I think that's the area where he needs to improve the most is obviously his throwing, but we've seen some great things from him. We've talked about this one moment a lot, but and it's just one moment, one pass, but that pass he made in the Iron Bowl, which was a beautiful, just in the end zone threading of the needle there. And so the talent is there. The capability is there. We know his athleticism is there. What happens in 1 year or two, Lidge, under Hugh Freeze? That's the big question. Can that make the difference for him?
How many years he got at Auburn left?
So he spent 1 year at Oregon, his 1 year at Auburn. So I think he redshirted that first year. So I think he would be a redshirt sophomore if my timing is right for him. Yeah. And he would be 2 years left. 3 years left of eligibility. Here's the problem. Everything's so hard to keep track of now because everybody's got the extra COVID year, right? It's just, it's hard to keep track of at this point. What else you got on your mind?
My favorite player this year will be DeMario Alston.
DeMario Alston. So, the backup running back, right? As we think.
He signed my Auburn program. He said, "Happy birthday, Kevin," on it.
Oh, see, I haven't even got a happy birthday from a football player. You are like a superstar then. If you've gotten a happy birthday from them, that's awesome, Kevin.
Hey, I got Cam Newton jersey too.
You did. I got one too. It's in the closet through this door. Well, that's actually a doorway to a hall, but to my closet, my actual closet, I've got my Cam Newton jersey in there. I pull it out for special occasions, for the Iron Bowl, things like that. But I've got one too.
Hey, can the fans roll Toomer's Corner this year?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd have to go back and look at the initial article when they asked us not to roll tumors to let the trees grow a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know. They'll have the signs on it, so they'll tell us. My suspicion, just looking at the trees and how far along they still have to go, I'm just going to bet no, but someone's still going to roll them. Why? It's just going to happen. As long as we don't overdo it and give them an opportunity to continue to grow, because that's the main thing right now is they got to just get strong so that we can actually have those trees back again.
When will Jemiah Cobb be on campus?
Well, he's got to graduate. So most graduations happen for high school in May. And so I would think that looking at the calendar right now, about a month. My assumption is that he'd come in the summer and start training at Auburn, but you
Start
never know, right? Yeah, that's who.
training.
Look, if you've seen that practice facility, like y'all, most fans have, I've been even closer inside than most people have. I would want to get there as soon as possible to utilize that facility. Let me just tell you that.
Yeah, it's neat.
It is very, very neat. All right, so give me a prediction for your last thing, Kevin. I want a prediction. What's the next commitment Auburn gets? What position? Like maybe not
Wide,
necessarily a person, but what position?
wide receiver from Central Phoenix City.
I knew
Cam
that's where you're going to go.
Coleman.
I knew that's where you were going to go, to Cam Coleman.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's heating up in terms of interest from all kinds of people. So I'm not shocked that's where you went. But Kevin, it is
Hey,
always good to hear from you, buddy.
my dad company. He used to work with Bill Harbert Construction,
Yeah, the
and
Harvard family. Yeah,
they build the new gym.
they did. They
Yeah,
did. Well, that's pretty cool connection right there. So you have to get me connected with them someday. All right.
and I when I go to the Auburn football games, I go Tiger Walk, tailgate, and watch the eagle fly. Then after the game over, I wait for all the Auburn players to sign my Auburn program. They still do that.
That I know. I've seen lots of people doing that. I might have to do that myself. So you get yourself some signatures this year, buddy. I'm gonna look forward to maybe seeing you on campus sometime. Okay.
I might see you September 2nd if you go the
Sounds
game.
like a date. Yeah, I will be there. So sounds like a date. We'll make it happen. All right, buddy.
Yeah.
You have a great night, and thanks for calling
Where
in.
you go?
War
Bye.
Eagle. There was Kevin. Good to hear from Kevin. You guys can call in just like he did. Don't be shy. I don't bite. Come in and talk about whatever you'd like to. Sports or not, we can talk about anything. Unbeaten Lake says, all I want this year is to see a good offensive line. I read that wrong. 2015 to 16 was probably the last time we had one 7 to 8 years ago. Thinking through that. I said this earlier. I'm kind of swishing that around a little bit, thinking about if I agree with that or not. Well, the crop of offensive linemen that we've had, not picking on one individual in that, but just the collective, have been here for the last 4 or 5 years, which would push that back to the 29. Whoa, get your math right, Kyle. 2017 season. So maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit shorter than that, but you might be in the ballpark of that. I think it'd be before that, but the last crop has only been here for the last 5 years or so. Richard asks on Facebook, why is there no talk about Hunter at running back? Are they keeping him hush-hush? He should be the best this year, I think. Well, what do you mean? I mean, do you think that – I guess I'm curious what you mean by that. Why is no one talking about him? I mean, we kind of know what we're getting, right? Tank, we knew what we were getting with. Now, Tank was just I don't know that Jarquez has the star power that Tank does simply because of a name and because of the way he burst onto the scene. But Jarquez, I don't think he's going to do fine just without us talking about him. I don't even think there's anything you really need to talk about him. You know what you get with him. He is fast. He is also strong as an ox. And he's just a good little package of a running back. So there's really, I guess, we know what we need to know about him. And now it's finally time for him to burst out onto the stage. An article said Brian Body was going to be the best running back for Auburn. Well, it's an article, right? We all write articles. We all make podcasts. We all make videos. And we all have opinions. Some of them stink. I'm just kidding. The stuff I share here, I'm sure stinks sometimes too. Just because it's written, it's said, doesn't make it true. But what that when I read that, or what you posted here about that article, I haven't read the article myself. What that tells me is that our running back room is going to be very good, because we know that Jarquez is going to be very good. We can know this because we've seen this. He's been second fiddle to Tank Bigsby for 2 years. and still sometimes upstaged him. So we know what we're getting there. So imagine that. You know what you get out of him. Brian Body comes into the picture. Damari Alston, we've already seen some little flashes of that little monster. Excited about him. And then look at about A-Day. Yes, Sean Jackson and Justin Jones are depth guys, like depth chart guys. You're not going to see them out in the field a whole lot, if ever. But you can see they're very competent running backs. So that is one area on this football team that I am secure in, is the running back room. I would also say that for the tight end group. I think John Samuel Shanker was the superstar of that room. He's gone now, but you've got guys that have been here who are very good as blocking tight ends and have shown some promise as catching tight ends. I mean, there's Luke Deal, Tyler Fromm, Brandon Frazier has shown flashes of that. And now you throw in a guy like Rivaldo Fairweather and Landon King, who can play as a tight end too. That is an area, running back and tight end, that I feel very good about. I'm also hopeful about the offensive line and a new, fresh outlook on it. Obviously, the questions abound at wide receiver and quarterback. So there's still a lot of pieces that got to be figured out there. But running back, when I see you bring this up, I don't look at it as what's wrong with Jarquez. I look at it as we have a very good, very, very good running back room. Hugh said Hunter is the best running back he has ever coached. What more needs to be said? But I also put that in the context, and Hugh said that. Let's do the full thing there, that he has not had a lot of, and he was quick to clarify his statement. He said he hasn't had a lot of great running backs, meaning like superstars and things like that, but he's had good ones. But still, it's a great compliment. Unbeaten Lake says, I want to see us use a 400-pound tight end. Well, you don't ever see 400-pound offensive linemen, so I don't know where you're going to see that. Number 44 would be Sean Jackson, I think. Let's look it up. Auburn depth chart. Let's do Auburn football roster. I'm going to look this one up for you because I want to know now too. 44. Sean Jackson, got it right, from Trustville. And well, this site is old. So yes, it should be 44. Should be Sean Jackson. He's a big bowling ball. That's what that guy is. Doesn't matter how good the running back is if you don't have a decent line. I disagree, WT. We did not have great offensive line play, and we still had a good running back, and that mattered because we needed him at times. Now, we will have Tank go down as one of the most underutilized and probably never seen his full value if he had a great offensive line. But I disagree with that statement just a little bit. Just a little bit. I just remember the guy from Baylor. Montgomery might have been the OC during that time. I'm not really sure who you were. Are you talking about the 400-pound tight end? Well, I don't know anything about that. I doubt that that's going to be happening. Usually you need your your tight ends to be a little bit more mobile, and no offense to anybody who's 400 pounds. Your mobility is limited to about 3 yards. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's just the reality of physics and mechanics and athleticism. I mean, we get some offensive linemen that get into the 350s and they just look like they shouldn't be able to move. So, yeah. How much better would our running game have been with a decent offensive line? Oh, absolutely. It would have been outstanding, but it still was pretty good, even without that. So that's the point I was trying to make there. So, yeah, we've talked a lot about the football team. How are we all feeling after spring? I know that we've talked a lot of A-Day and what we saw from spring practice, throughout the last few weeks, but anything else that we haven't hit on from that you guys want to kind of start closing the chapter on? Because here's the thing, folks. Football's done. Like, door closed for the next 4 months. That's not true. 3.5. Mid-July, when the SEC Media Days comes around, it'll be about a week and a half after that they'll start getting everybody in for fall practices. It's not really fall practice, it's late summer practices. And before you know it, it'll start then. But this is going to be a long last of April, May, June, and most of July. See, when you close out in the fall and winter for football, if most people who are lucky enough to go to a bowl game, that carries you into late December, early January, and then you've really just got February. But even then, you've got some recruiting stuff going on. When March rolls around, towards the end of it, you're getting going with spring practice. So there's really only like a month or two there. The doldrums are right here in terms of football. Offensive line would be great. Running back would be great. You're assessing what all we need to bring in. Quarterbacks and wide receivers needs work on the offense. Yeah, maybe so. We'll see. How do you know Tommy Rees will fit in as OC at Alabama, being from Notre Dame in the big leagues now? How do I know? I don't know that he will, but I do know that Alabama reloads every year. It's kind of what I would say for Tommy Rees is the same thing that I would say for when we were talking earlier about Alabama still being good, even if there's a quarterback question for them. It's Alabama right now. They just reload. And even if they don't reload, they are so stacked in the other areas. It kind of masks all that. I mean, Alabama's had some pretty mid quarterbacks over the years. Some great ones, but mid quarterbacks that were made to look outstanding because of what was around them. Very few of their guys under the radar guys became a Stetson Bennett once they were exposed outside. I would make that argument for, AJ McCarron, Tua Tagovailoa, however you say his last name. I mean, he's a great athlete and he has some great moments in the NFL, but when he doesn't have a great team surrounding him, you see what happens. So to your point about Tommy Rees being successful at OC there, I don't know that he's going to be a successful, but I know what he's walking into there. It's pretty nice, right? Devin giving us a softball update, 3-0 in the top of the 6. So probably not going to be a run rule game with only 7 innings, but hopefully that's going to be an easy win. Wearing the softball shirt too to support them. I debated wearing the softball shirt tonight or the tennis shirt because men's tennis starts their SEC tournament in town tomorrow. If you're in Auburn, go over to the Yarborough Center. Check it out. It's a fun time to watch some tennis matches over there, and it's going to, I'm sure, be a little bit more hopping with the SEC team fans in town. All right, we'll get back to comments and questions. Be sure to call in if you'd like to. The link is available in the top of the chat here on YouTube. If you're on Facebook and want to do it, you have to come over to YouTube and access the link over there. But real quick, let me remind you of our friends at allthingsauburn.net. You'll see their logo up there in the top corner. Check them out, allthingsauburn.net. Miss Tanya is one of the sweetest ladies ever, and she will help you find not just a place to stay in Auburn, but a great Auburn experience you can have by working with them, staying at the Auburn Game Day Center right there behind Mama Goldberg. So you are right in the vicinity of all the places that you love to go in Auburn, downtown Auburn, and everything in between. It's just a great location with great people that want to make sure you have a great Auburn experience. So check them out at allthingsauburn.net. Back to the comments and the questions here. Big Simp. I liked the push the offensive line was getting. I know it was a scrimmage, but it looked much more aggressive to me. I would still continue to stress that you not put emphasis on anything you saw in that game. Whether you think the offensive line looked good, whether you think the defensive line looked terrible, it was already going to be so vanilla when we came into that based off what Hugh said. But given the conditions, it was more vanilla than I thought it was going to be. And maybe my view of it was so skewed because I was sitting out there miserable in the rain with everybody else. But boy, was it vanilla. And I'm not mad about that. I understand why, even outside of the conditions, it was done that way. But boy, that's the $10 I can't get back. There are some Auburn losses under Harsin that I would have much rather been in than that. At least there was some energy in there, and there's nothing they could do about the energy of that. But anyway, WT. So there's really no point in talking Auburn football and basketball at this time of year. It should be all talk of Buc-ee's, and there it is. Oh, we're not done talking about Buc-ee's. Here's my problem is I get all this footage and I want to make these nice little reel videos for y'all about. You've seen I put out the unedited version of that last week, and it did great. Thanks for all those that watched it. But I'm putting together a little highlight reel, sizzle reel, so to speak, of that, and I just got to make the time to do it, and hopefully here the next day or so I can get that done for you guys. So we're not done talking about Buc-ee's. I think Austin and I will have that one of our major discussions when he comes back. Reminder, if you stay to the end of the show, especially, it should take you directly to a watch, the next watch link, which will be our live stream preview page for the Auburn Experience podcast, episode 32 live recording. So you can go and hit the like button, the notify me bell. We'll be talking about that, and hopefully Austin will be back this week. Let's see here. Notre Dame did not score more than 29 points with Tommy Rees was there. Yeah, I mean that's all the past though, and he wasn't playing with Alabama's tools. I'm not trying to defend Alabama. I'm just being honest about it, right? Let's see here. I don't get worried about baseball. We will go to the World Series like the last 2 of the 3 years this year and win it. Ole Miss did it, and they were trash last year. I disagree with your assessment there. They were not trash. They just went through a rough go of it, and they were ranked at first at the early part of the season and had a rough time and then figured it out and made it work. Your point stands that Auburn could go on a run here. The problem is they really got some pitching struggles that they've got to work through. Really, really got some struggles they've got to work through. Good question. Something we haven't really talked about a whole lot. Most of y'all know that Wes Flanagan has left. Now, I haven't seen him acknowledge this personally, but he's not on the coaching staff on the websites and things like that. But so it's based on that, it's true. And joining Chris Beard's staff. Maybe there's something out there that confirms it already, other than just reporting that I'm just not privy to. Who fills that spot? My guess is that Ira Bowman, who would be, it's Coach Stephen Pearl, Ira Bowman now. I think Ira Bowman would kind of move up into that spot, and so that moves somebody else in. What I think would be cool, Marquise Daniels. So I forget what his title is. And, these guys like Chad Pruitt, they have these different titles, but they're basically glorified assistant coaches, even though they have different titles and different roles, in my view. That may be a poor assessment of that. But what I would say is maybe Marquise Daniels, his daughter is coming to Auburn to play for the women's basketball team, unless that's changed. So he's going to have a reason to be here for a while. Why not promote him? I've seen Adam Harrington's names thrown out there. Who else? Bryant Smith, who's here as a student coach right now, like a grad assistant coach, could move up in the role. I really see opportunities for someone to fill the role who's already here, or maybe an Adam Harrington to come in. People have tweeted at him, and he's very active on Twitter, it seems like, in general. But he's engaged with those, hey, you should come be an Auburn coach. So it's hard to really get a picture of if he's just doing it for fun or not. But those are some names I'd throw out there. Scandalous misconduct. What's up? What a name. Angela Crotchfeld, good to see you. Thanks for how's Zach doing today? I hope I didn't get to watch the first part of the game, so I don't know how it went for him. I know he didn't play as long, if I remember, but happy the guys got a win last night. Big Simp, maybe your $10 will be worth it if Hugh's idea of playing a scrimmage against another school comes to fruition. Lots of people like the idea. Oh, it's a brilliant idea. I want to do a video about that coming up in the summer. I'm holding a lot of these generic videos that don't necessarily have to be discussed about the time that they're happening because summer's boring, y'all, and we need things to talk about. So that's probably coming up. But yes, the $10 would be more than worth it just to see a real scrimmage and to see it go to a charity, the majority of it. Man, we are talking a lot of Alabama tonight. Woo. KT Harrell would love it. Love it. Would love KT Harrell to take. That would make a lot of sense. Had some success with FAU. Would be able to move into a actual coaching position because he is director of basketball operations. Again, a glorified assistant coach, but that would be cool. I think Auburn's got a lot of alumni, previous roles on the staff that could come back, move up. But it'd be interesting to see if they convince someone like an Adam Harrington to come here. We are getting Devin Cambridge back, but his youngest sister, who is number 1 in the country in the class, why not play for Coach Harris? Well, she's got to want to come here, first of all. Devin has a reason to come back. He may not want to. Or she may not want to come there. What do we think about Broom declaring? No, but if he gets good evaluation, I think he needs to do what's best for him. I think we're fine. I'm not shocked in the least by that. And I think the general consensus about all that is nobody was really truly shocked about that. And by the way, I'm just looking at your avatar. Is that a Mandalorian? I have not watched the finale yet. Please, no spoilers. Willie Torbert. On the Paul Feinbaum show last Tuesday, Feinbaum stated that Auburn can easily win 7 games. He further mentioned that Coach Cadillac and the running backs can win 2 more games for a record of 9-3. What say you? So let me make sure I'm understanding that. You're saying he said that Coach Cadillac in his running back room alone would get those 2 extra wins? I mean, I think the running back room is going to be one of our strongest points. We talked about, I don't know how long you've been here tonight, but we talked about that earlier, how much I love that running back room. I did a video about it yesterday. The ESPN FBI Football Power Index came out. It's all just talk and hearsay right now, but I mean, there is some, statistics that matter built into that. So they predicted us somewhere between, usually most of the time we got 6 wins. I think 7 wins is highly possible, and I think 8 wins should always be the expectation at Auburn. I think Auburn is capable 99.9% of the time with the talent we can bring in, no matter who the head coach is or what, to win 8 games. Doesn't always happen that way. Will it happen this year? That remains to be seen. Boba Fett. I love it. Love the Mandalorian. Does Auburn women's basketball not? Sorry, I'm not understanding some of the grammar here, but in the right place to get the top players in high school basketball right now. Well, you just can't say it. You got to show and give them a reason to come here. So right now, Coach Harris is doing exactly what she should do, taking the team from where it was and continue to raise the bar. They got more wins last year, beat some teams they shouldn't. This year did that and then some. Made a tournament, won a game in the tournament. Was it one game? Or did they win the one game? I can't remember. I think it was one game they won. So the next step is make a better tournament, win more games. If they continue upon that path, then they can start catching the attention of some of these teams. But right now, it's so top heavy in women's basketball with South Carolina, Stanford, Oregon. Well, maybe they're not as relevant anymore, but they're so top heavy. It's hard to have any parity in women's basketball right now. Gracie says, I expect to win championships every year at Auburn. Look, I agree with that to some degree, and I'm glad to hear he's doing well. I just realized I brought that up, but thanks for sharing there. I agree that you should always expect your team to win championships, but you also have to be realistic and understand that only one team can win it. And there's a lot that goes into play into that. So I agree with the notion that there should be an expectation to win championships. I think it goes a little bit far, and you should expect to compete for a championship every year. So yeah, I was really disappointed by Aisha Coulibaly leaving the team. I really thought she was going to stick around for one more year and really, I mean, I think she would have been one of our best players of recent times leaving. So that was a big disappointment, but hopefully they've, I haven't really looked, obviously we just being real here. We don't all spend a lot of time analyzing recruiting in women's basketball, but they've been bringing in a lot of transfers. So I'm excited to see what Coach Johnny Harris can put together this season with this transfer portal cycle. I like the way that we're going with her right now, frankly. Should feel really good about where the program's at, heading in the right direction. All right. We're sitting at about 15 minutes till 9. So we will begin to wrap up here in 10 or so minutes. So if you are wanting to call in tonight, please do not be shy. You can be on camera or off camera. If you want to be off camera, you can select that option. Don't be shy. Don't bite. Would love to hear some of your voices or see your smiling faces tonight. So please do take advantage of that if you can. Would love to talk to some of you guys, but obviously you can continue here in the chat. Well, we're getting transfers, a lot of them. So I think that time is done. I don't know that she's going to me, that one, you don't lose someone like Aisha Coulibaly. And it's just, I'm testing this out. When they make a decision, someone came and got them. To me, that's what it feels like. So what else have we not hit tonight? I feel like we've hit a ton. I know we haven't talked a lot of baseball and softball because we did that last night, baseball specifically, on our weekly catch up about baseball. And obviously there's a very important one this weekend. Seriously, you can go watch some of our commentary there. But if you guys have comments or questions about that, we can definitely talk about it if you want. Ooh, here's a cool story. We'll still continue to bounce around. Aubie's getting a statue. Now, I do statue because in the article written about it from the board meeting, they called it a figure. I think that's very direct and on purpose terminology. So I say statue because I don't want to sit here and act like he's getting a statue. But it does sound like he's getting something to commemorate him out there. If you look, I don't want to say too much because I want to do a video about this too. But essentially, if you read the article, it says that he is going to get it southwest corner of the student center. And there's a certain, I don't want to call it a structure because it makes it sound more prominent and more on purpose than it is. But there's just this, I'll call it a concrete block that's always been there right at the edge of the green space between the student center and that. It needs something on top of it. Maybe it's going to be an Aubie statue. Interesting that I didn't know that was in the works. I think it's appropriate. Aubie needs a statue. If Suge gets a statue, if Pat Dye gets a statue, if everybody else gets a statue, what better person or animal to get it than Aubie the Tiger? Can we all agree on that? That's one thing I think we all can agree on as Auburn fans. We got all these opinions about who should be here, who shouldn't, which coach should or shouldn't have been hired, all this stuff. But I think we all can agree that Aubie needs a statue. Excuse me. McCall, we have talked about Grayson McCall pretty much throughout the show tonight. And Brock from UGA, Brock Vandergriff, is that his name? Yeah, there's been some discussion and linking of him if he doesn't win out the Georgia spot. That's the thing for a lot of people who are interested in the transfer portal for Auburn in terms of quarterback, you got to wait for some of these other spring practices to get done. And most of them, I think, are done or about to be done. So a lot of that should remedy itself very, very, very soon. Gracie, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, we just saw our legendary coach Jeff Schaefer of diving prominence. We just saw him retire. Let's see if I have it written down here. 24 seasons. So he's seen a lot of highs and lows, but a lot of success at Auburn's swimming and diving program. But he is now retired. So we've seen a lot of that lately. Football and the bigger sports, they tend to have a lot of turnover. You don't see a lot of heavily tenured coaches, but in some of the sports that are smaller in terms of attention they garner, you see people stick around for a long time. Karen Hoppe, Ralph Spry of track and field, who just retired, and now we've got a new head coach. Same thing here for swimming and diving. Somebody can stick around for a long time. So it's interesting. The diving coach, to me, I've always understood it as, even though he is secondary to the head coach, he's basically his own head coach too. So yeah. Why is TJ and Holden still here? I thought they both would leave so we can land McCall and Brock in the portal. Gracie, I think your expectations I'm just going to be honest here, about the quarterback situation are a little unrealistic. I'm not trying to be mean, but I think if you want TJ and Holden both to leave just so that can open up, you got to understand they may not want to come to Auburn. I know it's hard to think about that because we're such a great place, but some people don't want to come to Auburn, even if it means they have the opportunity. So you can't ask for the guys to leave if there's not a desire for them to be, those other people to be here in the first place. The best thing that you need to do right now is be supportive of who is here. And when those people arrive, maybe if they arrive, then we let them hash it out and we support whoever's the quarterback. I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of tired of just this whole, I'm on this quarterback's team, that quarterback's team. Let's just be on the quarterback's team, whoever it is out there. It's just, sometimes it gets a little bit toxic for me. I'm not saying you are, but that's just me in general. Yeah, Devin kind of says it here. Why would Holden leave? He's doing just fine. He's young. He's got plenty of time. And apparently TJ is hinting at leaving, but who knows? Yeah, look, we all know, we see the writing on the wall for TJ, and TJ understands his situation too. But why leave until you need to leave? You're going to have a good opportunity if nobody else comes in to compete for the job and still have some playing time if it doesn't work out with like a Robbie or a Holden. Why leave? I say stay here. We need stability right now on all facets, even at the quarterback position. And sure, if somebody great wants to come in and win the job, I'm all for it. But it's a little too soon. The bigger sports tend to bring in the most money. That is what keeps the whole athletic department functioning. Yeah, true. But I think you're relating that back to what we were talking about more tenured guys and girls in coaching realms. I don't know if that really correlates, but maybe it does. Walker Kessler deserves to be Rookie of the Year. Isn't it cool that we're talking about an Auburn basketball player as the NBA Rookie of the Year potential? Look, Chuma's great. Okoro's great. JT Thor's great. Jabari's great. XYZ is great. But Walker Kessler not only was the Defensive Player of the Year when he was here with us, but maybe has a chance to be the Rookie of the Year. That's pretty incredible that we have a guy get that type of accolades at that level. It's just really cool. All right, we're going to start winding down here at the end. So go ahead and get your final comments and questions in. We'll address them here rapid fire at the end. So don't miss the opportunity to do that. We're going to go ahead and close down the phone lines tonight. Thanks. Good to hear from Kevin tonight. Always great to see people take advantage of the call-in link. As a reminder, at the end of this stream, it should take you to a preview page. And if that is the preview page for our Sunday show at 9 Eastern time, the Auburn Experience Podcast live recording, episode 32. Don't miss it. Make sure you go ahead and smash the like button and hit the notify me bell so you don't miss that. We'd love to have you there. It's kind of like a mini one of these shows, except we record a podcast while we're doing it with myself, and hopefully Austin Scott will be back. Check out all the links in the descriptions. You can be a subscriber. You could even be a channel member here by hitting the join button. You could head over to patreon.com/E2C network and be a Booster Club member. All those things and more available in the description for you to help support us here at E2C Network and keep the lights on. We appreciate those of you that can. We also appreciate those that are just here, smashing the like button, commenting, and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. I want to bring this up as we kind of rapid fire here. Yes, thoughts and I'll go further. Not even just thoughts, just prayers. From my stance, I'm not going to push that on anybody else, but prayers up for Dadeville. I don't want to get on a soapbox tonight, but there's a much bigger issue here than what people want it to be about, and hope that our country, our world, even will one day wake up to that fact. But in the meantime, a lot of sadness and prayers for Dadeville. Let's see. Go back to round out some questions here. Let's see. If TJ had not been injured, he is all we would be talking about. I think I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, WT. He's had some time not injured, and I think there's still a lot that he's got to work on. I think it's not just an injury thing with him. I think he's got some things that he has to clean up, and maybe he's still continue to work on those. In Coach Pearl and Freeze, I trust Auburn is on the rise in the sports. Well said. Well said. All right, guys. Thank y'all so much. We're going to cut out here just a little bit early, but thank y'all for being here, being part of our little family within the Auburn family, which is the E2C Network family. And I look forward to another Wednesday night with you next week. Be sure to not miss 9 o'clock Eastern time this Sunday night for an Auburn Experience Podcast live recording. Until I talk to you again, War Eagle.